Hello, everyone. I'll move this closer. You'll be able to see better. Yeah, I think I can. Hello. Hi, everybody. Surprise live. I don't know. I felt like going live today with all of the absolutely intense energy this week. I think it's a fun time to like hang out and talk about magic and just chill together, I guess is the best way I'm going to say it. Yeah, I'm going live. Hello. Oh my gosh, how is everybody doing? How's the energy of this week going for you? It's not a little. It's so much. Oh, welcome. Hello. Oh, yeah, it's a lot. I know. Yeah, so tomorrow's Friday the 13th, which honestly isn't a thing. Like, I mean, it is a thing, but it's not at the same time. Like, we decided that that Friday the 13th was a thing, and therefore it is now because we, in our conscious collective, decided that it was. So weird stuff can happen that day because we all kind of collectively decided that stuff would happen that day. That doesn't necessarily mean stuff does because of like a cosmic reason. So there's always weird energy on Friday the 13th, but not like it's like cosmic, something happens or whatever. It's just mostly like numerology in us. That being said, the Friday the 13th, like 13 is a very divine feminine number, so it's a huge day of like flowing and things flow easier and there's less of a veil usually, again because it's getting flowed through, which means more spiritual and spooky stuff does tend to happen kind of that way. Would I manifest for this eclipse? No, not at all. Not at all. So it's not that manifesting on the eclipse is an inherently bad thing to do. Basically, the energy of eclipses, the thing to kind of keep in mind, especially solar eclipses, is it is the universe kind of moving the pieces around for you. So if you're trying to manifest through this energy, I'm not going to sit here and say you can't, because I don't believe in rules for the most part in spirituality, other than like don't take other people's cultures and use them for your spirituality. Like, no cultural appropriation, like that's like my number one rule. But manifesting with this eclipse, not so much. Not so much. The reason for that is basically with the universe moving the pieces, it's kind of like creating a tornado of energy. Oh, thank you. It's kind of like creating a tornado of energy. And if you're speaking to that tornado being like, hey, I would like this one specific cow to fly out at my face, the chances that you get the cow that you're asking for aren't going to be super high. You'll get a cow will fly at your face, or maybe a goat will fly at your face, or whatever else the tornado has picked up. But it's not going to be exactly what you're kind of calling for, because it's kind of the universe's time to play with everything. And to help you kind of do what you need to do and start a new chapter. Like solar eclipses are about beginnings in my experience. And like when I look at the energy of them, they're usually about us starting something. They're about us launching something, about us stepping into the next version of ourselves. This one in particular is like super activated. And then lunar eclipses, which we're going to have in 2 weeks, are about closing chapters. So they're about shutting stuff down and ending things, rounding things out, so that we can kind of step into the next space, which is usually why this next 2-week period always feels kind of funky. Between eclipses feels funky. On one hand, you're inspired. On one hand, you're tired. On one hand, you're excited. On one hand, you're burnt out, because you're in between a start and an ending, and the start came first. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't necessarily manifest with this. You can, but it's going to be really chaotic, and you probably aren't going to get exactly what you're kind of going for. It's more of just a, hey, let's let the universe actually do what the universe said it's going to do, basically. Like what the universe is doing for us in our highest and best. Same thing with like shedding. Usually you'd shed on like a full moon, which would be the lunar eclipse. Same deal. My big 3, I am a Gemini sun, Libra rising, and Scorpio moon. So it's a great season for me. I am a spooky person. I said, oh, congrats on your first big psychic moment. Keep that going. That's amazing. I'm so stoked for you. Like, that's so incredible. Congratulations. Libra rising gang. Heck yes. Yeah, thank you about my background. This is actually like, it's wood paneling. Like, this is actually my wall. It's not like a tapestry or anything. We moved into this house and it has like this whole room that is my office. It's just like this super funky 70s vibe. Like we have like a wooden bar and we have like this wood paneling. It makes me so happy. I was like, sacred geometry, yes. Like you can't really see, but there's like lines in between and it makes me so pleased. I love it. Yeah, ooh, Scorpio stellium. Nice, dark and spooky. Oh, I don't know you, but you and Crystal are two of my favorite humans. Thank you. I appreciate you so deeply. Oh, that's amazing. You're awesome. Yeah, a bunch of you are saying I never catch my lives. I honestly don't go live all that often. I'm going to start going live every Thursday, though. So this is my first weekly live. I'm going to start doing it every Thursday. One, I really like it. Like, I like getting to hang out with you guys and, like, figure out what everyone's actually wanting to know from me and get to, like, tap into the energy of the groups. Like, I really love going live. So I just wanted to, like, create it more consistently now that we've moved and stuff. So, yeah, every Thursday I will be here. Oh, I'm so happy you appreciate my energy readings. Thank you so much. They're super fun to do because, like, I align my energy for the week anyway. So I always tune in, and getting to share that and, like, getting other people to be like, oh my gosh, it resonates with me too feels awesome. How do you know if it's your own thoughts or spirits? Ooh, great question. So first and foremost, if you're, I'm going to talk about spirit guides, not necessarily ghosts, because ghosts don't usually invade your thoughts necessarily unless you're trying to tap into them. So how do you know if it's your thoughts versus your guides? First off, I did a really long, like not a really long, it's like 30-minute YouTube video deep dive on this exact question to help you guys out because I know this is a very intense topic. The biggest thing here is to pay attention to what psychic sense you use. So there's 8 psychic senses. I have courses on this too if you want to figure that out, or even have a free little handout doohickey in my link where you can click and download the handout to figure out which psychic senses are yours. But those are your clair senses: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairtangency, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairempathy, clairgustance, and clairsalience. And which ones are yours? And then when you receive messages through those senses, that's how you're more likely to know, okay, it's not just my thoughts. I'm actually getting them through my own unique psychic senses. The other thing is blind trust is not a requirement when it comes to pings. Like, if you think your guides are talking to you, by all means, ask for validation. Ask them to show up and validate you in some way. Like, that's the big thing from individualized spirituality as opposed to, like, structured religion, is there's often a structured religion, like blind trust, or like read this book and it'll answer all your questions sort of vibe, versus individual spirituality, like trust is not required. Like, it's something that can be earned too. So by all means, you can ask your guides about it and see how they validate you for the pings that you get. The other thing to think about too is oftentimes pings, like poof, drop in pings where you're like, oh, this is a spirit ping, it feels like a boom, something just happened, I just know this thing. Usually it's not related to what you're already thinking about. It's like, poof, here's an idea. It'll often, instead of coming from the front of your mind, where we usually have a lot of our thoughts, it'll come from kind of the back forward. So those are just a couple little pieces of it. Again, I have a whole YouTube on it if you want to go more in depth. But great question. Great question. And the biggest thing, it's a practice thing too. Like, you don't have to immediately figure all of this out. Like, you can practice with this. That's the other thing. Like, take that pressure off of your back. Like, you don't need it. You don't need to have the pressure of getting all the answers right. The magical, omnipotent beings that are supposed to be helping you out, they should have all the answers and they should communicate with you correctly. So if you're not getting those, you can work with them to get those to you in a better way. Love to hear your thoughts on ear ringing. Usually people who you get ear ringing as a sign, versus like a tinnitus, like health thing, of course, but like as a sign, have a lot of clairaudience, which is clear hearing. And guides absolutely use ear ringing as a sign. Guides will do that. Even ghosts will sometimes do that. Like if you walk into a room with a lot of spirits, or, you know, a lot of spiritual pressure, sometimes your ears will ring. It's absolutely spiritually connected, especially if it feels random. If you're like, I don't know what's happening here. Whenever your ears ring, if you have that pop up out of, you know, again, randomly, pause for a moment and be like, oh, okay, run through all of your senses. What are you seeing, sensing, hearing, feeling, knowing, tasting, smelling, anything that's just popping in? And just take a second and take a snapshot in that moment. Like, if you don't know what the thing is, if you go through all that and you're like, beats me, I don't know why my ears are ringing, that's fine. Bug them. Be like, I don't know what my ears are doing. Why are they ringing? So if one of you guys could like validate that for me, spirit guide team, that'd be awesome. Give me the message. But if not, like, if you might get a message and be like, oh, that's what the earring's about. It totally just validated. I had that thought just a minute ago. Awesome. So it just depends on the situation. But yeah, they totally use it all the time. No, I didn't want to. Okay. I wanted to do a spell on the eclipse. I'm having a hard time understanding why it's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea to do a spell on the eclipse. Go for it. What's not great is doing manifestation or shedding. Manifesting, basically, there's so much universe energy going on, and the universe is moving the pieces. Essentially, what you're trying to do is be like, instead of what you're doing, universe, I'm going to move them instead. And so you're not going to get a super great result. It's like going through, instead of having the clear energy of doing a manifestation on a new moon, where there's blank open space, there's not a lot of energy going on, you can fill that space with your intentions. The sun has now overtaken that space. So if you're manifesting stuff in on that space, it's just not going to be as easy, it's not going to be as effective, and you might not get the results that you're looking for because the energy is just too unpredictable for that. It's more of an exercise in trust. So if you're going to do a spell, do something for growth, do something for trust, do something for, healing, just vague things that can make you feel good. I will be doing a simmer pot on the eclipse. I'll also be standing outside underneath the eclipse energy in the sunlight for a while. It's part of the human experience. Like, it's such a unique and cool thing that we have eclipses, that the sun and the moon have the same relative magnitude. Like, that's incredible. And so being out there under the eclipse energy, even if you're in a place where you can't see it, I can see it partially where I'm at. So I'm going to go and safely with goggles look at the eclipse. But you can also just stand under the sun and just appreciate the fact that we get to be here in this moment and there's a sun above us, and the beauty of consciousness. That's amazing. But I just don't recommend doing any concrete manifestation work on the day of the solar eclipse. Do it after. Do it whenever. It's just let yourself trust for a little bit that the universe has got your back. Okay. Have you ever, where'd that go? Have you ever felt something? There we go. Everything moved around. I was like, I'm trying to read it. And then I'd read it and move. Have you ever felt someone that was in a vegetative state? Happened to me with a girl's dad. Yeah, I've actually done that quite a bit. I've actually done that multiple times with people, clients that'll be like, my grandpa's in a coma or very close to death or has a lot of dementia, things like that. So it's a case-by-case basis. I'm not going to say that there's ever what's going on spiritually if someone's in a vegetative state, because it truly is a case-by-case basis. But I've done that quite a bit of work talking to people and feeling out the energy of those types of spaces. One that comes to mind relatively recently was someone with, I think he had dementia. I thought it was Alzheimer's, but I think it's dementia now I say it out loud. And basically what had happened is we have multiple consciousnesses, and I know that sounds really weird, so don't get too woo-woo with it, but we have multiple consciousnesses. One is our soul consciousness, that's us. One is our body consciousness, that's the thing that we exist in that allows us to inhabit this planet. And at this point, his soul consciousness had pulled away, but his body consciousness was still operating forward on memories, but he was almost in that vegetative state. So yeah, I've totally tapped into that multiple times, and it's very interesting. You guys are coming in with such good questions tonight. They're equal parts super duper deep, and then someone was like, do you think cats are magical? Which yes, I do. I think all animals are magical. Animals are more magical than we are. They see things in layers and abilities that we can't even see. They have a depth of understanding of the world that we don't have. And I am a horse girl to the core, so I have done a lot of work with animals and magic and all of that, and absolutely all animals are magic, and cats especially have a very unique perspective on the world that usually helps their people to activate their other perspectives on the world. Can a past animal be a guide? Yeah. Well, thank you for the roses. Yeah, absolutely a past animal can be a guide. This happens actually more often than you think, where I'll tune in and I'll be like, you have a guide that seems to be a past animal of yours that has continued with you for multiple lifetimes. One thing that does also kind of happen often, animals oftentimes don't pass the way we think. If your animal is super duper connected to you, what will sometimes happen is when the body passes on, the animal just stays and hangs out and continues doing their normal daily thing with you. You just can't see them anymore necessarily, but they're still very much around and in your space, especially if you guys have a really deep soul connection. And it's not bad. They're not stuck. They're choosing to stay with you until, you pass too, or until for a certain amount of time, until the next animal comes in, or until it's time to reincarnate for you, or you name it, again, case by case basis. But yeah, no, they absolutely 100% animals hang around a lot. There's been multiple times when I do readings for people, which if you guys want a reading with me, a one-on-one, I do those. I do readings. I also do group readings. If you want to get in with sooner than February with me, that's a great option. But anyway, the amount of times I've tuned in and been like, oh, the dog that's laying on your feet, it looks so cute. Like, I feel his energy. And they were like, that's not a dog. Like, I don't have a dog in the room. I'm like, oh, he looks like this, and this is it. Is he a spirit puppy? And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's my dog. He passed away 3 years ago. He's still hanging out. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot. Yeah, cat spirit guides are definitely a thing. Oh yeah, I'll show my nails up close. Look how cool they are. They're like, oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Come on, focus. They're like moons and stars and like galaxy. I don't know if I can get it to work, but there you go. They're my favorite ones. I've gotten them. This is the first time I've gotten this like one done, and I'm super obsessed with them. I'm not a huge like fan of spooky Halloween stuff, but I really love like Halloween vibes, so I was going for that. Yeah. Thank you. You guys are so sweet. Yeah, pets totally stick around. And honestly, it's because they have a better understanding of their soul journey than we do. Like, we have so much consciousness, we get ourselves in trouble. They basically like, oh, body's done, let's go get dinner. Like, a lot of times that'll happen. Other times, of course, they'll cross over Rainbow Bridge, or they have other, things that they're going to go do. And I'm not saying it happens every time, but if you have a really deep soul connection with an animal, it is not uncommon for that animal to hang around with you still. How do you react when you encounter spirits' physical interactions? This is a great question. So it depends on what the type of interaction is. I have a very significant boundary in my spiritual space all the time. My guides are aware of it as too. Is I don't want spirits to touch me. They're not allowed to touch me. Not saying that they can really cause a lot of physical harm to me. They can't. I just don't want to feel them touching me or touching my back or anything like that. So basically I have a thing built into my energy that if a spirit tries to touch me, I light on fire, which I know sounds like really overkill, but I just like want to have that boundary so significantly. So I basically light on spiritual fire, and be like, no, boundary. And it alerts me immediately that they're like trying to touch me. That's like one big boundary where I'm like, hard pass. Not that it freaks me out. I just don't like it. It's an invasion of my space that I didn't consent to. So there's that part of it. Now with them moving stuff around or dropping things, whatever, usually I'm like, whoa, what was that about? Like, is there something you need to say? Ghosts, spirits, entities are full beings. Like they're just like people. So I try to treat them with the same respect I would treat if someone walked over and, dropped something or was trying to get attention from me and I couldn't see them or whatever it is. Like I try to honor that. Like all those ghost shows that exist out there, like what I would really love to do, like the kind of goal that I'm going for is to do kind of a channeled history show, to go to like ancient sites and channel in the history of, people who actually live there or the ghosts that are still there at these ancient sites, and hear about the ancient site throughout different times and space and get to like share that with people. Maybe have like archaeologists and historians like come in and contribute to like validate what I'm channeling in on. But I hate the ghost shows that come in and are like, poke me and scratch me or like that freak out the ghosts, because they're like just people. Half the time it's just like some old grandpa hanging out there that's like chose to hang out still because he had a hard time in life there and was trying to process through it. Like, they should get cookies. So I usually talk to them like that. That doesn't mean they're all nice. There is some spooky and scary stuff out there, and I hold really firm boundaries with that. But for the most part, that's what I start with. Oh, thank you for saying you'd watch my show. That's amazing. Yeah, no, not a big fan of some dude like miserable old guy calling you names in the dark. Like, that's not fun. Like, those types of ghosts are like not good. There was once a ghost at a coffee shop near me, and every time I'd walk in I'd be like, hey, like, good to see you, just kind of acknowledging his presence. And he was always like grumpy as heck, like pissed, didn't want to see me, didn't want me to be there, didn't want me to perceive him, always grumpy that his house had turned into a coffee shop, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, all right, Frank, have a lovely day. Like, putting him over there. His name's Steve, actually, not Frank. But I was like, okay, Steve, like, you have an awesome time. Good to see you. Just acknowledging you're here and this is your house. Well, then the coffee shop's shut down. And one day I'm like washing dishes in my old house. And all of a sudden I feel someone walk through the door, like a spirit walk through the door. And my guides were like, hard pass. I'm like, shoved him right out. And I was like, is this Steve? Like, why is he here? And he was now pissed that the coffee shop was no longer a coffee shop and it was just a house now. Now he was upset about that. And I'm like, you're just choosing to be angry about whatever. Like, you still can't come into my house, but like, no. Oh, that's so funny. Have you always been able to see them in our world? Does it develop later in life? So first of all, everybody can be psychic. Everybody can do what I do in their own unique way. Period. And I believe that with my whole soul. I've helped tons and tons of people become psychic themselves, like tap into their own psychic abilities. Everybody can do it. For me, when I was a little kid, I could see, sense, hear, feel, know things around me that I thought were normal at the time. I was like, yeah, everybody can see ghosts. Everybody can, I just thought that was normal. Even like portrayal in media made me think that everybody could see them, at the time. So for a while, it was really, when I was really little, I thought everybody could do it. And then I learned not everybody could do it when I was about to like basically go into middle school, and that freaked me out. And so then I tried to shut it out and be like, I'm not weird, which doesn't work. And then in my early, I started doing a lot of kind of psychic work in like high school, that kind of space for people. I had some friends pass and things like that and do a lot of like channeling and stuff there. And then I got really comfortable with my stuff in my early 20s. So it develops for everybody uniquely. I've had people develop, like come to me and be like, I just started seeing things and they're like 68. And I'm like, oh, cool. Let's work on that. But truly everybody can develop their psychic abilities. So what do I recommend to develop those abilities? Great question. First, you want to figure out how you perceive energetic information, which again, that's your clair senses. I have a free handout for that. Like, I don't want to take all the time explaining the clair senses on here because there's a lot of, it's very in depth. But you can figure out how those are, pay attention to those clair senses, and then work on releasing any limiting beliefs, blocks, healing work that you might have, because we oftentimes jam ourselves up with blocks and limiting beliefs that we don't even think are related, but I promise they are, and you can work on developing that way. Also, I do have a couple different courses to help you if you want to do that too. Like if you need some guidance there, I have one that's just like a week-long little guy, like less than $100 course, and then one that's more extensive, like a 9-week-long course, the digital that you can do as well. So, yeah. Would you go to Hiroshima? I would go to Hiroshima. Actually, we're going to Japan. I'm doing an ancient wisdom retreat. So if you guys want to come with me to Japan, we're not going to Hiroshima necessarily, but we are going to Japan next July. The tickets literally launched today. So if you guys want to come and channel history with me in Japan next year, you can. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. So we do ancient wisdom retreats. We've done Greece and Ireland so far. We're doing Egypt in March and Italy in May, and then Japan in July. And honestly, I'm so excited. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Whenever you gather like a bunch of spiritual people together, like it amplifies the energy to such an like deep extent, and I really have a strong energetic filter around these trips. So the people that come like bond together really significantly and create a bunch of magic together. And we're gonna go channel and experience the magic of Japan and look at the history, people that lived there in the ancient past, and also like get energetically activated by some shrines and just do some exploring and eating food and doing a tea ceremony and a bunch of fun stuff. So if you're interested in that, by all means, please go check out the tickets. I'd love to have you come because it's the most fun. It's so cool and absolutely life-changing. Someone asked, can you ask a silly question? Of course you can ask a silly question. There is no such thing. Or there are on purpose and I enjoy them, but it's not silly because it's, yeah. Does everyone have spirit guides? Yes, they do. Actually, yeah. Everyone has spirit guides. It's very interesting because I have tried very hard to find people who wouldn't. Like I've channeled into like people you would think like are awful or things like that, all these different things. And I've never encountered a single person who did not have at least one spirit guide. Usually you have anywhere from 2 to like 500. I mean, there's so many that you can have, but everybody has guides. They do. The frustrating thing that I think people run into with spirit guides a lot of the time is they will come up against this wall of like, okay, if I have spirit guides, why don't they help me with everything? Like, why do things still go bad or whatever? And it's not necessarily their job to help you with everything. It's their job to be like, you gave them a map of generals or specifics. I don't know, based on you. Every person's map is unique. You gave them a map before you came here and were like, help me get through these things. Like, these are the things I need to experience. And it's their job to guide you through those things. And those things don't depend on our sense of morality or what we think should or shouldn't happen, unfortunately. It just depends on what your life experiences need to be. So your guides are always there helping you. They can help make things easier. When you're down here, you can ask them for help and stuff, but they're here to help you get through the things you needed or wanted to get through in this lifetime. So, yeah. I answered that a little bit earlier. I will post this on my YouTube so you guys can go back and watch the live again. But I talked about how to know if it's your guides or your thoughts, and if a dog can be a guide. Those are 2 questions I just got. Yes and yes. But I did just talk about those. So if you guys want to watch this back, I'll post it on my YouTube in a little bit. How do we find it? There should be a link in my bio that doesn't go to the Trevor Project. It's just my normal link. Or you can go to my website. It's emilydexterpsychic.com. That's weird that you're only seeing the Trevor Project link. I don't know what's going on. TikTok? Come on. Snap it up. I love your history videos. Who has been the most fascinating? Hello, hun. Who has been the most fascinating? Well, if you've been here for any bit of time, you know that I love Lacusta. She's now one of my guides. She was a poisoner in ancient Rome, and I'm writing a book about her right now. She's the best. I love her to death. She's intense and awesome. She offed multiple emperors and is just incredible badass. She's been fascinating. I also, while we were in Ireland, this one's just funny, and I keep thinking about it because it made me laugh. I walked up to this castle. It's a church and castle. It was a castle first and a church after. I walked up to this castle, and a ghost fell on my head. A remnants of who someone used to be fell on my head. I was like, whoa, what's your deal? And it was basically him just getting blown off the tower of this castle over and over. And he was like, oh yeah, and whatever. And he would run back up the stairs and then fall off again and run back up the stairs. And I was like, what is your deal? And basically he stayed around to defend the space because in his mind it was still under siege. And I was like, do you need help? Are you stuck? Do you want me to help you go to the other side? He's like, no, I'm very content. He was wearing this bright colored situation too. I was like, real sneaky for a guard. But I couldn't get the date out of him. I tried. Their spirits are weird about dates. That's not what you're going to remember, you know? Do you remember all your friends' birthdays and everything? Probably not. You're not going to remember the dates at that point either. But it was 1400s, 1500s, I think, judging by his kind of garb and the way he appeared and the way he spoke. But yeah, so that was another fun one. There's been I love doing channeled history. It's my fave. So yeah. Does a baby soul pick you even if it's adopted? Yeah, totally. It's individual. So I'm not going to say 100% all the children pick their parents, whatever, but it's individual. We all pick our own life experience, all sorts of stuff like that. So absolutely. If you adopt a kiddo, that can also very much be that their soul chose yours for sure. Love your book recommendations. Thank you for posting about the Mistborn series. It was so good. I know. It's so good. I literally have a tattoo about the Mistborn series. I love them so much. You can't really see. Well, maybe you can kind of see. Over here, I have them in leather. Right there. The leather bound because I am obsessed with them. I just finished reading Assistant to the Villain. I'm currently reading the Stormlight Archive, which is a lot of it, which is incredible and it's super awesome and it's really, really, really spiritually correct in a lot of ways, which is interesting. So if you want to get into a huge series where every book is 800 pages long, go for it. I decided to take that undertaking on, I guess. But if you want a fun that feel... Assistant to the Villain isn't one of the best books I've ever read, but it does feel the way... you know the movie version of Ella Enchanted? If you've ever seen that, that's the way this book feels to read. So, just to keep that in mind. It's super fun, super playful, and so I took a little break from my intense Stormlight Archive read to dive into some goofy, fluffy stuff. Thank you. Oh yeah, I love doing the sessions, so I'm glad you want to do one with me. That makes me so happy. Writing these all down. Keep those recommendations coming. Oh, I have so many of them. It's about time for my yearly read of the Scorpio races. I love that book. I usually read it at the start of Scorpio season, so basically the end of October. That's a great one. If you're looking for some spooky sort of witchy books, what's it called? It's The Secret Society of Irregular Witches. The Not So Secret Society of Irregular Witches. So good. Kind of romantic. The way she plays with magic is totally how I see magic. Fantastic. That one's a wonderful one. I have so many that I could just go off forever about. But those are some good aesthetic ones for right now. I'm not a Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio moon. What's the most heartwarming experience I've ever had? Oh, I've had so many. I've had so many. Heartwarming experiences. Honestly, being a spiritualist, being a psychic, it's in the media portrayed as something where, you're dealing with spooky things and things like that. Truthfully, more often than not, it's heartwarming. It's lovely. I've gotten to meet beautiful fairy beings and beings from, different realms, etc., that are just so genuine and so lovely and just display traits that, humans usually don't. And I love that. because I love learning about new things and figuring out how the world works and the universe works. I love speaking with animals. That's always amazing for me and super heartwarming to see how they process through things. I've gotten to help a lot of people reconcile with like lost babies, like babies that, you know, miscarriages or abortions or whatever that they're having a hard time with. That's usually pretty heartwarming. Like I've done a lot of really, it's more comfortable and cozy and like soul to soul, beautiful human connection. That's more of what being a spiritualist and psychic is. Even when you're talking to like a dragon or something like from like an entirely different realm, it still is that way. And it makes me so happy. But Fluffy, which book is like El Enchanted? It's not Witch, it's Assistant to the Villain. And that's by Hannah. She's on TikTok. You can just type it in and you'll see it. But that's like El Enchanted. It's very cute. What's my favorite thing about my new house? Oh my gosh, such a great question. Thank you for asking. It's gonna sound silly. So I live way up in the mountains. I live in Lake Tahoe, in the mountains. It's snowy and cold. We're in nature. I was born and raised up here. I love it. But the house I lived in for the last 7.5 years was not built by someone who knew how to build houses very well, especially not houses in the mountains. So things that I love most about my new house: it's warm. That's fun. All my windows are like double paned and there's a heater that actually works. We have a dishwasher in this house. We didn't have it in the last house, and I have 3 kids. So it's been an adventure having a dishwasher now, and a garbage disposal. We also didn't have one of those. And we have indoor washer and dryer, not in the garage, so they don't freeze in the winter. So that is also super exciting. So those are some of my favorite things. The personality of the house is incredible. I love it. And the energy of that is amazing. And so it's been nice to get to like know her, like the house itself. Also like the beings that follow me around, my guides and the beings that come with me also really enjoy it. And so I've enjoyed getting to expand into this space and feel really nice. Yeah, I do have kids. They're all middle schoolers. All 3 of them are middle schoolers. So, yep. What kind of things did you do before you moved everything in? Does the house have a name? Okay, so things we did before we moved everything in. I literally went and I sang in every single room. I sang in every single room because I was basically like introducing my vibration to the house in that way. I also went around to all of the areas and buried stones or crystals in all of the like corners of the house outside. Those are not my official like temple making rocks, which I will work on those. They have to kind of come to me in nature, and I find the right rocks that I'm like, oh, you mean protection, you mean enlightenment, you mean comfort, whatever I want the house to be imbued with. And then I meditate with those rocks, imbue them with that energy, and then I'll put them in the corners as well. But the crystals that I buried are just like my initiation, my little guys that I'm just kind of starting off with being like, yay, magical house, you're here. I scanned for ghosts, made sure there was no ghosts. There wasn't. It was honestly a very dead energy in here. The house had someone talk to it in a really long time. And it's slowly waking up. I've asked for a name, haven't gotten one yet. I don't know if the house actually has ever named itself. So I'm giving it its space to name itself, whatever it would like, and kind of go from there. And then we put a bunch of bird feeders and things like that up right away to bring life to the house, and planted a bunch of plants like right off of the bat underneath the moon. We did our planting at night to make sure that again, to draw life to the house kind of right off the bat. And then I've been absolutely like lighting candles everywhere. How can you tell what the house is naming itself? Oh, I'll just keep checking in. I'll keep being like, hey, have you come up with a name? Like, do you want me to call you anything? And if something pops in from the house, then I will call it that. And that is totally fine. Why at night? Because I love the moon. Because the moon makes me happy. So I planted the plants at night underneath the moon because I wanted them to be activated with that energy. Do you light special candles or just any? Whenever I light a candle, I set an intention for why I'm lighting it then. So I don't actually make my candles special specifically. It's lighting by lighting. I set the intention. You can totally do both. Like, don't take that as like a hard and fast rule. It's just for me. I like the lighting by lighting of it. It makes me feel nice. So yeah, great question. We planted a whole wall of aspen trees at night. There was some hollyhock plants already around, and I went and basically talked to them, was like, please spread. And they have. When we came, there was like 6 or 7, like there was some hollyhocks, but not a ton. And then now there's like 150, like they're everywhere. I'm like, perfect. That's what I wanted. Thank you. We planted a dogwood, some lilacs. I'm wanting to make a yard where I can eat most of it. I'm really passionate about that. Or plants that decide they want to be here. So we're going to have dandelions. We're going to have lots of sunflowers, lavender, sweet pea, that kind of stuff. What? I saw someone who talks about angels on TikTok saying spirit guides are actually demons. No. Okay, here's the thing with demons. Since you guys brought it up, let's talk demons for a second. They're simply just another race of being. So if you think about it, angels are a race of being. They have their own realm, space. There's a whole lot more types of angels than you think about. Thank you. The fairies have their own realms. That's the one we're most familiar with. But then there's dragon realms, whatever. And if we're a Venn diagram, those circles intersect us. Okay? The demons are one too. They were just the ones that looked the spookiest, so they were easiest to demonize. Yep. So when she says, demons are not leading anyone astray. They have everything in their numbers the same way we have everything in our numbers. There's some that suck. There's some that are awesome. That's a cool thing with a cauldron. That was neat. There's some that suck. There's some that are fantastic. There's some that, are really morally just. There's some that are just super activating. There's some that are here to give you a hard truth. Like, there's a million different reasons because they're all individual, unique beings. So anytime we categorize any type of being out there in the universe as all inherently bad or all inherently good, we are trying to create limitations around an entire society that don't exist. We're trying to put them into a box because it makes us feel more comfortable. So anyone who's sitting there like, these are demons or whatever, like, are you trying to say they're inherently bad? Like, spirit guides are not bad. And the angels and demons are not actually opposed. It's just an outdated religious structure that has decided that those specific beings are opposed. So I could do a dissertation on that, by the way. Like, there's so much. But, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It villainized us to make us feel shamed to be creators. Yeah. How was my Dark Night of the Soul? Rough. Dark Nights of the Soul are. They happen. They happen. You don't have to go through one in order to have psychic abilities manifest or activate. So I do always want to say that. I did. It was a severely abusive relationship in my early 20s. That was my Dark Night of the Soul. And then when I came out of it and wanting to connect with my abilities again, and it was not easy to do. And I had to figure out a way of activating my own abilities. And that's why I can do this now, to activate your guys' own abilities. I refuse to buy into the narrative of if you work hard at this, it'll be good after you work hard, or, it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be worth it, because I'd just been through a Dark Night of the Soul and it was challenging as fuck. And I was done with that. So I was like, well, I'm going to make it be easy. And so a lot of the stuff I teach, everything, I try to make it as easy and as digestible as possible, because I deeply believe that it should be easy and digestible. So absolutely. I'm healing and activating mine right now. Oh, congrats. That's amazing. What is the most interesting let's see. I lost that one. What is the most interesting place spiritually that you've traveled to? So astrally, I've traveled to a lot of interesting places. One thing I did astrally one time, I traveled to Orion's Belt, and we see it as 3 stars. There used to be a 4th, I guess. And the 4th one was kind of planetary, up the layers of the universe cake. If you want to know more about how the universe works, I did a whole video on it because it's kind of in depth, but I try to make it as simple as possible, I promise. But I went there and it was super interesting. It was almost like gravity worked backwards. I don't know how I can describe it. It was kind of like gravity worked backwards, and things were just funky and the plants were all different. Stuff I would never even imagine. I was just like, well, this is weird. It was almost like everything was, if succulents were tropical, not desert, and wrong colored. That's how I'm going to put it. It was just really interesting, and it wasn't super warm, but just intriguing. So that's super one. That was really interesting to me. Physically, when I've traveled to a place and then channeled in the ancient history of that place, the most interesting places for me are usually the places that are a little bit more mundane. And I know that sounds weird, but I love channeling in the spiritual energy and talking to people who lived in the ancient past that were bakers, how did you bake bread? What is this? It's so fascinating. So when I was in Italy in March, we went to Ostia Antica, which is the ancient Roman port city. And it's basically, think Pompeii without the volcano. It's that level of ruins. It's so beautifully and immaculately kept. We're actually going there on our ancient wisdom retreat to Italy if you want to come. But the amount of different like walks of life I got to walk through and beings I got to talk to walking through all of them was really, really cool. I even had this one girl like hooked on to me, and she's like, I'm going to show you around. I mean, she was past, she was channeled in. But she worked at a brothel there. It was just great. Ooh, pretty lights. You guys are showing me ones I haven't seen. I love them. They're so fun. So yeah, that too. She was a kick. Is there such thing as astral school? Is astral traveling for the first time scary? So it can be, because it is kind of like a separation of physical body. You're never fully separated. It's not like that. And there's certain things that you want to be aware of when astral traveling. Like, I don't recommend falling into it for the most part. But there are people that do astral travel, like teach you how to astral travel, etc. There totally is. Corinne Finley is one. If you want to look her up, she has I think a decent presence on Instagram, and she does a cool astral travel program that I really enjoy. So yeah. Was it hard to come out of the psychic closet? Any advice? Sure. Was it hard? It was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't consider it it wasn't super hard in the way that I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be more ashamed of doing it more publicly. I'm like, oh wow, like my old bosses are going to see me do this, and like people I went to school with and family members, and like, what is everybody going to think? And of course, all those questions sort of came up for me when I started doing this more publicly. I've been doing readings like professionally. When I say professionally, like for exchange of things, since high school. Like I started doing this kind of in high school stuff, but then really making it like a side business in my early 20s to now I'm 31. And when I really started doing this very publicly, making it my entire business, which was, in 2018, I left working in HR. I was an HR manager. I left that and started doing this. So I was like, oh, people are going to think, what are they going to think? But it was easier, not just because people were more accepting, but because I could fully be myself, and I could have all those deep conversations with people that I love having, instead of having to talk about the weather. Like, people would come up to me and they'd be like, what's this psychic thing about? I'm like, let me tell you. And whether or not they believe you or not isn't your problem. Like, the truth of it is it's just not your problem, nor is it something you can control. So if people don't believe you, they are more than welcome to go be boring and not believe in magic on their own. That doesn't have to impede your journey. Now, for the people that really matter in your life, you want them to see all of you. I totally get it. You can start, instead of being like, I'm psychic, which it might be a big step, instead just start using casual language. Wow, the energy of today was really intense. People get that. People understand manifesting, even if they're not super spiritual. People even are starting to understand Mercury retrograde on like a more day-to-day concept, or astrology on a more day-to-day concept. And you can start introducing vocabulary like that before you dive into going deeper. And remember, it's your journey. Like, you can release as much about yourself at any given time as you want to. You do not have to bear your butt to the world if you don't want to bear your butt to the world. Like, if you're like, I just want to share this with people who matter to me, awesome. And if that grows more, fantastic. It's totally up to you, and there should be no pressure to share any part of your journey at any point in time. It's entirely yours. Yeah. Oh, thank you guys so much. You're so sweet. Yeah, so eclipse energy for this weekend. I did talk about this a little bit at the beginning of live, but I know a lot of new people are on, so I'm just going to touch on it again really quick. The eclipse energy for this weekend is a lot. I do recommend going outside and standing under the sun for a little bit of time, just experiencing what it is to be a person during an eclipse. We are incredibly lucky, and it's incredibly divinely majestic that we can even be on a planet that has eclipses. Like, it's beautifully part of the human experience. And so experience that in any way. Even if you can't see the eclipse, just like go out and be in the sun, because that's a human thing to get to do. And it's really cool to let the universe kind of move your pieces for you and say, like, yeah, I trust the universe. Like, you trust the universe. Even if you don't, you can just like own it for a day. Just be like, I trust you today. And let that be open. It's okay. Blind trust isn't required, but doing that, standing under that energy, is going to be really helpful. If you want to do anything that inspires you, I highly recommend that. So if you're like, oh, wow, I'd really love to just sit on the couch and read for a little bit, that makes me feel so connected, do it. If you want to draw, awesome. If you want to, all of a sudden get a craft project done or clean something, whatever makes you feel inspired, just do something like that. That's the best way to have any sort of influence at all into how this eclipse energy is going to hit you, is literally just be like, hey, this is a start. Solar eclipses are a start of something. this is the energy that I love, and I hope this is where I'm starting. And that's the best thing that I recommend doing. I will also be doing a simmer pot. I'll also be at a soccer tournament because my daughter's playing soccer. So I'll be out there in the sun doing that too. But yeah, absolutely. Those are things that I would absolutely recommend. Oh, thank you. I love all of your energy too. It's such an honor to get to be here. Like doing this, like having a platform as a psychic like this in such a comfortable way where like I can have new people come in and we can talk and like collaborate, and it's so beautiful. And even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this wasn't a thing the way that it is now, and I've been in this industry a really long time, and I'm so honored. Like I'm so honored to get to be here and share this space with you, and for all of us to be in the same time and place that we decided to incarnate in. Like it's so cool to get to be here, because 10 years ago this just wasn't a thing. You couldn't connect in this way, and that's freaking honor. The eclipse is on Saturday. It is a solar eclipse. And if you're in the western side of the US, you can see it. Do it safely, goggles, but you can actually see it. So especially, I think it's Arizona and New Mexico, really, really get it. In Northern California, Oregon, middle of Nevada, I'll be able to see it partially where I'm at, which I'm really excited about. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I do have a lot of knowledge about this stuff. It's kind of like my own hyperfixations led to a lot of my understanding of the universe and whatever. And the questions with beings I've channeled in, I've asked, have always been from everything from like, what do you think the meaning of life is, to like, hey, do you have a house? Like those types of things. So I appreciate that you think I have so much knowledge. I've worked really hard at it, and it's also very lovely. Does the eclipse cause people to be super rude and combative? Yeah, it totally does. There's a lot of energy to process. So if you think of the eclipse, it's a solar eclipse, so it's a start of something. Every time we start something new, do we always feel excited about it? No. Oftentimes, we freak out. We freak out that something new is starting and we don't feel capable of it, whatever. And sometimes we don't even process it as the start of something new. We just know we don't feel good. We feel yucky. We have emotions about it. We maybe don't even want to express those emotions. That's what people are going through. That's the energy. Plus, there's some Mars doing some fuckery, and Pluto's no longer in retrograde. Like, there's a bunch of stuff going on astrologically. I'm not an astrologer, but my business partner, Krista, is. So we talk about it quite a bit. But yeah, that's kind of what you're dealing with. So if people are feeling super wonky and they're like lashing out or have a shorter temper, or if you get in a fight about nothing, all of that is like eclipse energy. Big time. I've been having a hard time not being overwhelmed the last few days with no reason. So reminder there, clear your energy. Clear your energy. We all are energetic sponges. Just doing a little energetic clearing will really help. Doesn't have to be complicated. You can literally just make the command, like everything that's not mine leaves my space now. You can wash your energy through with like a visualization of like a golden waterfall or light. One of my favorite ones is I'll just grab handfuls and be like, not my energy. I'm throwing it away. Take it off. Throwing it away. Get it off of me. I don't want it. Anything that's not mine, I'm clearing it out. Or even like visualize like a board above my head, and then I'll just like push that board all the way down through me and down into the earth. Just clearing that out will help a lot with the overwhelm. Also remember that right now, if you don't have a lot of energy to do something, maybe you shouldn't be forcing yourself to do that thing. Like you might have to for work, whatever. Do it the best of your ability, and then put your energy where what you do have energy for. Like if there's chores, and you're like, I'm going to get them done this weekend. And then you hit it and you're like, I don't think I can. Like, I don't think I can get them done this weekend. I'm so upset about it. I'm overwhelmed. Cool. Then you don't get them done. You put your energy where it needs to go right now, just because that's the energy that's going on right now in the world. So when does it get better? Define better. Sorry. No, honestly, the energy of the solar eclipse will kind of subside by like next Wednesday or so. We'll be like, okay, that energy's done. We have like a week and a half break, and then we have the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse is a closing of something. So if the solar eclipse starts something, the lunar eclipse closes something. Usually between the two, we feel really weird because it's an interim period, and that feels weird. Once the lunar eclipse closes, then we get into November, and we'll feel a little bit better then energetically. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Yeah. And so the best thing you can do is just manage your own space. That's the best that you got. How do I get to do what you do? By the way, I love you. Oh, I love you right back. That's amazing. Work on it. Figure out what you're passionate about in the spiritual sense. That's always what I say. Like if you're diving into spirituality for the first time, if you're really getting into this and you're like, I really want to get into doing this, like this has always spoken to me. What part of it has spoken to you? You know, did you always love watching like psychics on daytime television when you were a kid and like how they could tell the future or things like that. Cool. Then maybe you want to develop that gift. Did you always love ghost shows and you want to learn how to speak to ghosts? Cool. Work on developing that gift. If you're really passionate about healing and self-work and you want to help heal people, there's a ton of different energy healing and psychic healing and magic healing that you can do. Or maybe you want to do past lives. There's a million things, but figure out what speaks to you. What is your passion? And start throwing energy there. You don't need to know everything about everything all at once. In fact, you shouldn't. That's not how learning works, and that's also going to be unhelpful to you and cloud up your process. But what you can very much do is to figure out what you're passionate about and start figuring out the way you want to do it, trying out methods, working on healing stuff so you can get there, looking for resources. That's the easiest thing. And remember, all of this is practice makes better. Like, nothing's ever perfect, so I don't like to use that word, but practice truly makes better. And that's the best way to do that. Ooh, someone said thoughts on crystals. I love crystals. I love them so much. I have so many all over this desk. Like I have a lot. I would pick them all up, but then I'd be like, oh, my crystals, like a little crystal dragon. But I love them. I let each crystal that I get tell me what it's for. So instead of being like, oh, rose quartz is for love. Sure, maybe it is. And I think more often than not, rose quartz helps with self-love and things like that. However, sometimes I'll pick up a rose quartz and it's like, I want to be for protection. Like, this one feels strong and protective. Just, I want it to be for protection. I'm like, cool, this is a protection crystal because I decided that. So I think it is more of a specimen by specimen basis than an entire type of crystal basis. My daughter just walked by the window. She was making funny faces at me. Oh, that was cute. But yeah, so that's my thought on crystals. If you have a crystal and you're like, oh, this one feels so good to carry with me. I always feel calm and peaceful carrying it. Perfect. Carry that one. If it's not necessarily, sodalite, which would help with peacefulness or whatever, it's, something else, maybe it's obsidian, then cool. It works for you. That's what matters. Yeah. It makes so much sense. Yeah, there's really no rules. Honestly, that's the biggest thing with spirituality is like, there are no rules. Do you connect with your kids' guides? I do. More of their guides reveal themselves slowly because they're kids, they're growing. I don't get to see their whole like pantheon of guides right off the bat. But as their guides kind of reveal themselves to them a little bit or are showing up more to help them, I get to meet them too. So I do talk to my kids' guides for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure. I'm a Moldavite head. Moldavite's cool. I like the energy of Moldavite. Some people feel really calm with Moldavite, and obviously some people feel like they just ate a chaos chip and it wrecked the universe. So, to each their own. That's awesome. What's the best way to meet your guides? Oh, great question. Start by talking to them about nothing. Like, don't talk to them about something important right off the bat, because that's not the energy you're going for. It's more about like talking to them like, oh, what should I wear today? What should I have for lunch? Could you tell me about yourself? Just start to talk to them in little ways. Nope, not doing that. Okay. Is really going to help. It's a great way to meet them. It's a great way to connect with them, genuinely. Is just doing little things like that and talking to them, feeling them out. It will grow from there. It's supposed to be more of a relationship than it's supposed to, like, as opposed to you, like, writing a letter to Santa Claus and you're not getting responses back. So that's why you ask for little casual things. It makes your body, your human brain, really comfortable with accepting the communication from them, which is super fun. And then you can grow from there. You can also ask to meet them in a dream. You can also do a meet your guides style of meditation. On my Patreon, on the meditation tier of my Patreon, I have a tea with your guides meditation. So if anyone's on there, you can do that too. But yeah, you can ask for a sign. You can ask for like a validation from them. And your validation, like mine's bees and rainbows. Like whenever they want to get my attention, when I'm not paying attention to them, because I'm not paying attention to them all the time either. I have to be a human. Existing in the 3D is important. They'll shoot me some rainbows, or they'll shoot me some bumblebees doing some bumblebee things. You have to talk to them out loud or in your head. Thinking with intention works just as well as out loud. Absolutely. Yeah. Tips on anyone with health anxiety. Spiritually, I don't know. So, for any anxiety, period, I always recommend doing healing work. And what I mean by healing work is figuring out, what are the actual, limiting beliefs? Put them in one sentence. For example, for health anxiety, if the belief is, I'm going to get sick, if that's the limiting belief that keeps coming up for you, Write that one sentence out. Underneath it, write the opposite and start saying that sentence as an affirmation. It will really, really help because it starts to unwire that limiting belief, and it'll probably help expose more limiting beliefs, more blocks that are kind of affecting you, but it'll do it in a really lovely way. Like it'll do it in a way where you're like, oh wow, I actually made progress. Now other stuff is coming up. Always affirming too with health anxiety specifically. I use affirmations all the time. Words are magic. My handle's liker of words for a reason. Words are magic. So absolutely you can say like, I use the affirmation, I'm healthy and well and immune to all illness, like every day. I'll say it out loud to myself in the mirror. I'm healthy and well and immune to all illness every day. I also use I'm divinely supported because I matter every day. You are divinely supported because you matter too. By all means, use that affirmation because it's true. And you can actually think about, like, sit there when you say that affirmation, like, I'm divinely supported because I matter. When you say that, take a moment and think about a time in your life where you've been divinely supported. There's been one, even if it was like, oh, that time I really needed to use the bathroom, I found a parking spot. Like, awesome. That's divine support. Your guides, your higher self, whatever, put in this energy to make sure you felt that in those moments. They're not going to stop doing that now. So that's the way you can reaffirm that for yourself as well. Yeah. Do you have any advice for meditation for people who have apatasia or who can't visualize? Absolutely, I do. You have so many other senses. You don't just have to visualize with your eyes. So whenever I say visualize, I mean see, sense, hear, feel, know, taste, smell, just know. Like, that's what I mean when I say visualize. And that's how you should take it. Whenever someone says to visualize something, you don't just have to, be like, okay, I have to see the red apple in my brain. You can be like, oh, I just know that a red apple is there, or I can hear the smooth squeakiness of someone touching a red apple, or I can, you name it, anything like that. You can absolutely do. And so whenever someone says visualize, use your other senses. You don't have to just see it in your mind. Yeah. And that goes for anyone. Like, even if you can see things in your mind's eye, relying on your other senses too, bringing those in, is going to give you way more depth of information and experience. Kitty paw! Okay. Oh. Hello. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, isn't the backdrop's getting cooler as it's getting like darker in here, like the stars are coming alive. It makes me happy. Oh, I love it. What steps would you suggest to become sensitive to the energy like crystals? So again, figure out what your clairsenses are. And again, I do have a thingy for that on my link tree or on my website, emilydexterpsychic.com. So figure out what your clairsenses are and then try to use those senses. So if you're trying to become sensitive to crystals and you have, like, let's say a lot of claircognizance where you just know things out of nowhere, hold a crystal and be like, or put it in front of you and be like, what do I just know about this crystal? It can help to narrate it out loud, things like that. And then as the more times you do that, the more you're going to be sensitive to different energies coming in and different types of energy. Ooh, electric palms. I love that. Reminds me of X-Men. Anyway, but that's absolutely one of the ways to do it. And then also working on healing and releasing blocks at the same time is super important. Yeah. Have you connected with any forest spirits in Tahoe? All the time. Constantly. All the time. Those are some of the first spirits I saw when I was a little kid, actually, because I lived like really near the beach and like really near the forest at the same time, and so I would see water spirits and nature spirits and forest spirits like all the time. And I thought, like, when people, I love the llama. When people were like, imaginary friend, my imaginary friend's like this, or whatever, I was like, oh, do you mean the spirit that sits at the bottom of the stairs by the beach? Like, is that what you're talking about? Like, do you mean that guy? Because like, he's not like an imaginary friend, but he hangs out. He likes the smooth rocks. Like, whatever. So yeah, there's huge spirits here. Honestly, I should probably just do a whole YouTube video on the spirits I've met in Tahoe. Cause like the spirit of the lake herself, the spirits within the lake herself, all those things are just real incredible. You guys are so awesome. Thank you guys for joining me on this lovely Thursday evening. And I am going to try to do lives like every Thursday, the best that I can. I mean, occasionally I might not be able to because of kids' obligations or whatever, but I am trying to do this every Thursday because I love this energy and it makes me so happy to tune in like this. Do you ever feel like you're not in a healing era? Yeah, sometimes you're not in a healing era. And that's fine. Maybe then you're in a growth era, or maybe you've done so much internal work that now the external work needs to be focused on the doing of stuff. And it's not just healing. That's fine. It's okay to not constantly be healing. What I'll try to do is I try to pull a block for myself every single day. And I have courses, like my Psychic Soul Magic course, the digital one, teaches you how to pull blocks and stuff like that. Or if you write your book with us. So we have a book writing program. It's called The Forgotten Storytellers, where we help you write the first draft of your fiction book. And activate it with magic so it becomes like its own healing modality that heals everyone who reads it and activates them, and it's super fun and playful, and we channel in your characters, we do astrology, it's awesome. But we also teach you how to pull blocks there. But I try to pull one block a day. Even if I'm not in a healing era, if I'm in a healing era, it'll be tons more and stuff will come up and amazing. But if not, then I'll just pull one a day. Just try to release something a day just to keep stuff flowing. What steps would you suggest to become a psychic? Therapy and meditation are great. You don't have to meditate. It's honestly, everyone has their own journey. Therapy is essential. Mental health support is essential for anyone doing anything spiritual, anything. Not a substitute for therapy. Therapy is its own thing. That's the body healing and the mind healing, and then the spiritual healing that comes kind of in tandem with that. That's helpful. Meditation is helpful. Figuring out what you want to focus on, your senses, how you're going to navigate those. All of those things are really, really helpful. Yeah. Do you ever get multiple beings or guides trying to get your attention at the same time? All the time. Constantly. All the time. It's noisy up in here. I actually have different rooms in my brain that I divide like things into. So, for example, I have like my spirit guides are over here. Like if I'm channeling for someone, their guides kind of live over here. Higher self is above my head. I'll do past life stuff back here. I'll look at your energy field, so that's kind of over here. Mediumship's over here. Like I have different rooms that I can open and close kind of at will. To channel in whatever I'm doing. You know, there's one for pet communication. There's one for like looking at your heart is where I look at when I look into there and to see like your records and those kinds of things. So bunch of different stuff that way, but yeah, all the time I'll have multiple guys trying to chat at me at the same time. Yeah. Oh, no, come back. Okay. Everyone can be a psychic medium. Everyone can be psychic. It's not just me. Everyone has the ability to do this. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Deeply, deeply, deeply true. We've just mostly been convinced that, one, our imaginations are fake and pretend, and therefore we're not magical. And two, it's a society that holds us in structures and boxes, when being intuitive is all about not having structures and boxes. So everyone can do this. I promise. And I have so many resources on how. So many resources. Like just the first step stuff, I have a free handout for, like on the link in my bio or on my website. And that'll help you with the first steps. I also have a whole YouTube about how to get it started. I mean, tons of stuff. But I promise, I have courses. We have a podcast. It's called The Alchemist Inkwell. All sorts of resources, because truly everyone can do this. And it would make me so incredibly happy if all this stuff was like dinner table conversation for everybody. If everyone could tune in the way that they're supposed to, it would be amazing. So, yeah. YouTube, correct. It's my same. Liker of Words or Emily Dexter. Perfect. You want to be psychic for fun is a beautiful reason to be psychic. Do it. It's super fun. It's super duper fun. I highly recommend. You don't have to do it for anyone else's service. You can just be psychic for you. And that's cool too. Oh, awesome. Well, you guys, my kids have arrived home. And I do want to go see them before dinner time and everything. So I appreciate all of you. I will upload this to the YouTube so you can watch over it later if you want to. But thank you guys for showing up. This is awesome. And again, if you want to travel with us at all, Japan tickets just went live. We're going to do such magical things. And then I get to like hug you and see you in person, and that makes me so happy. But yeah, I'd love to do that. And so you can go check that out. Anything else, booking readings with me, Patreon, you name it, is all through the link in my bio. Or you can go to emilydexter.com or just search my name. You'll find me. But I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I will see you guys next Thursday or whenever I see you. Have a wonderful eclipse. Enjoy. Mwah. Bye.